Senator D Vance, Republican of Ohio, on Friday addressed the firestorm brewing around his recently resurfaced remarks that the country was being run by childless cat ladies, calling it a sarcastic comment and pivoting to attack Democrats as anti family. I know the media wants to attack me and wants me to back down on this, Megan, but the simple point that I made is that having children, becoming a father, becoming a mother, I really do think it changes your perspective in a pretty profound way, Vance said on the Megyn Kelly show, his first time addressing his 2021 remarks since they were recirculated this week. There's a deeper point here, Megan. It's not a criticism of people who don't have children. I explicitly said in my remarks, despite the fact the media has lied about this, that this is not about criticizing people who for various reasons didn't have kids, Vance said. This is about criticizing the Democratic Party for becoming anti-family and anti-children. Vance pointed to support from some liberals for young children to continue to wear masks in the years after the virus began. He also claimed the Harris campaign has opposed the child tax credit, although Harris, as vice president, has supported expanding that policy. It's because they have become anti-family and anti-kid, and I'm proud to stand up for parents, and I hope that parents out there recognize that I'm a guy who wants to fight for you, Vance said. I don't think we should back down from it, Megan. I think we should be honest about the problem. Vance said the government should make it easier for families to have children, that workplaces should be more accommodating for working moms and dads. He also told Kelly that he's not opposed to IVF for parents having fertility problems, but said we have to protect the rights of Christian hospitals to operate the way they want to operate. Vance has come under fire in recent days because of comments he made in 2021 when he was campaigning for an Ohio Senate seat. He told then Fox News host Tucker Carlson the country is being run by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. It's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, the South Bend mayor, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children, Vance said. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it, rather? The Ohio senator who was tapped by former President Trump last week to join the GOP ticket told Kelly people were too focused on the sarcasm in his remarks, not enough on the substance. So there's a little bit more about this, but let me just say this. I watched that clip. He didn't seem sarcastic to me. He explicitly mentions the vice president, the transportation secretary, and a congresswoman who all share one thing, which is that at the time none of them had children. Well, let's just address this from a policy standpoint first, and I'll get into like why it's so offensive. But he says the Democrats are anti-family and anti-kid. Okay, if Harris is someone who supports expanding the child tax credits, if the Democrats are usually the ones who fight for school lunches, which are oftentimes the only guaranteed meals that kids from these lower income communities can get because their parents can't afford to buy them any food many times, or very not as much as they would if they were wealthier. I don't really see what would make them anti-child. In fact, I would say, this is not something Harris is backing, but you have a lot of Democrats who, for example, are now supporting free college, and I think that would help parents immensely because many times parents back out of paying for their child to go to school because of the cost. That's actually what happened to me, where I got into a university that was out of state. They wanted $30,000, even with loans and grants, it was cut down to $12,000, and they wouldn't pay it. So that was the rest rather. So that was I just don't think the Democrats are anti-family. I really don't. Now, to get into, again, Vance's comment from just like the personal standpoint of why it's so offensive. And I normally don't care to like really bring up anecdotes about myself when talking about this stuff. So when he says childless cat ladies, but then also mentions the South Bend mayor, he's clearly not just talking about women. He's specifically referring to these Democratic Party officials who seem to recurringly not have children. I don't know if anyone's told him this, but birth rates in the United States are dropping. There's a much higher chance that if you're an immigrant, you're probably going to have a kid versus if you were someone who was born here, for example. They're at a 30-year low. This is data that I can pull up for anyone that's interested, but birth rates across America have been decreasing for several years at this point. And again, people have drawn their own conclusions as to why it is, and I'm sure some of them are accurate because it's not something you can just tie to one issue. Some people just do not want to have children; other ones are unable to afford it. There's plenty of reasons why someone doesn't have this. Now, what drives me crazy is when a person fights as hard as they can to not be part of a category but ends up being part of it anyway. Now, I've done some romance content where I've talked about how I've started to notice a trend where a lot of the women that I have, like, people are going to pretend that it's very easy to get a partner if you're a man, which I will fully dispute. But a lot of the women that I talk to and have tried to be romantically involved with, or at least liked in that manner, or had say that they liked me back in this regard, which I don't believe because they lie so much, but just many of them have stated that they don't want to have kids. And this is, ironically enough, the one thing that they say that I can always believe is true. And it's so frustrating to have had the dream, right, of becoming, because he mentions that having kids changes your perspective. I've seen testimony from parents that where they've talked about how having a kid has made it to where they're concerned about the future and whatnot. But it's so frustrating to have tried as hard as you could to not be part of the childless cat ladies category, and then end up in it anyway because every supposed prospective partner is like, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids. And they're always so surprised when I'm like, yeah, I can't, I have no future with you if you're going to deny me one of the main things I want out of even being with a woman. Like, what's the point if I can't have what I want? Modern society is just so lame, like all this stuff about relationships and how great it is to have a partner. But in all seriousness, some people are better off alone. And I made the point, I said, what is the point of, just engaging in any of this stuff if you can't get what you want out of it? But no, as far as, his claim about people not having a stake if they don't have kids, I mean, I have younger relatives, younger cousins that I am concerned about the future of. I don't think you don't have a stake just because you haven't. It's just it was a really dumb comment that he made at a time where he probably didn't think he would be on the Republican ticket in 3 years. And if the Democrats and Harris are smart, they'll be playing it constantly because, again, there are a lot of people who don't have kids or don't want kids. So, way to piss off voters that are probably in some cases, like it is a fact that people without women without children tend to vote for Democrats more, but you're not exactly doing yourself any favors by spitting in their eye like this. But yeah, I tried as hard as I could to not be part of the childless cat ladies category. I don't even have an animal. But when all of these supposed partners that you can get are like, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids. You just get tired of hearing that on repeats where you just say, you know what, I'd rather just be alone if the closest I can come to supposedly getting the American dream is having my hands tied behind my back and having much of the enjoyment I could theoretically get out of it denied. It's People say life isn't fair, and I guess I'm not trying to turn this, like, I promise I don't do this more often than not, but I've just always thought it was so rancid that, like, you hear about people having kids by accident, right? And these one night stands. Then there's this man that year after year, he tries to plot it out with some woman. Hey, maybe we can da 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 da. And then each time they're like, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids, I don't want kids. And I even said, like, what's the point of trying to be with one of them? And many of these girls and women are like from other countries, right? Which is already like invoking some kind of long-term thing. But what's the point of working towards some long-term relationship with someone if such a vital piece of what you want out of the future of this is just like immediately closed out on you forever? Like, there's no incentive to bother with them. They're just such a rancid group, man. And like I said, we're told over and over how different women are, but somehow we still end up getting the same result. It's interesting. Vance will regret these comments. I don't think it's going to win Harris the election, but it's definitely going to hurt the Trump Vance ticket. So this is one of those childless cat ladies signing off.